In this Zipwire Active Learning session, we're going to go more in depth on some key features from a demonstration and technical functionality perspective. Our focus will be Zipwire's robust outbound capabilities with SMS interactions, flexible screen pop options, and how to demonstrate them, our impressive and intuitive mobile API demonstration, and how Zipwire empowers the supervisor to manage, monitor campaigns, services, and agents. Along the way, I'll share with you some demonstration tidbits and frequent gotchas. By the end of the session, you should be able to answer 5 questions. What options are available for calling party number? Can I do an SMS blaster campaign from Zipwire? How can agents specify what service to use for a manual call? Where does a supervisor start and stop campaigns? How long can an agent go back to review internal chats? Let's jump right into outbound. I want to start by showing you an outbound service and talking about some key features you can use for your demonstrations and presentations. Once we review the settings, I'll demonstrate an outbound campaign from a service, supervisor, and agent perspective. I wanted to start off with outbound and talking about it in a little more detail because it's something we don't normally show in demos, and I think it's definitely a gap that we can fill. We'll start looking at the supervisor dashboard. And to look at the outbound campaigns, you need to make sure that you go to campaigns when you're logged in as a supervisor. And so you can see here the outbound service being listed. Currently there's no list associated. I can pick the team, and then I can see the agents logged in, how many calls they have actually taken. I can add metrics. So I want to start from the beginning, and I want to actually import a list and start dialing. Talk to you about some of those features. I'm going to create a new format. So notice here I have a caller ID, and this is a great feature with Zipwire. So I can specify the caller ID based on the service or the record. And we'll go over some of those options when we get to the service settings. And you can move around either from here or from down here to specify the different fields. So we're going to make phone a required field, and we'll make caller ID required as well. We've got to make sure that we map the caller ID as caller ID, and we'll leave email as other. And so we're going to say that a combination of the caller ID and the phone number is going to be our unique identifier. And this is the new format. And then I can see the properties of the list, the contents, and a log. So now let's go to our outbound service, which is outbound main. And we'll go ahead and add the list. And go ahead and enable it. And then here in the numbers is where we specify caller ID, and here are the options that we have. And I'm going to pick use the caller ID field. If there is nothing in the caller ID field, then we're going to use the default. And we have this one set as the default. And here I can add additional caller IDs to set as the default or map them to the state. So we'll go ahead and apply that. And if I'm going to be SMSing out, what number do I want to be SMSing out from? And we're just going to leave the default. And let's take a look at the outbound settings. So here's where we set the dialing mode. We can start the campaign from here. And here's what we're doing. When answered, we're going to be transferring to a scenario. Have my calling hours, my dialing rules, my do not call, and then this one, which a lot of you will appreciate, the diagnostic. So if your service isn't running, you can come to the diagnostic and see which one of these required fields hasn't been properly configured, and it'll have a link to take you right to that setting. So let's go back to our supervisor perspective. And now I can see that I do have a list here. I can see it's enabled. I can size this however I need. I can add metrics to and let me make sure I have my agent logged in. And I am logged in and ready to take a call. So I can start my campaign from here. Or as I mentioned, we can also start it from here. Hello? So in this particular screen pop, we have configured tabs because it's just an iframe with HTML, and this really shows the customer the options that they have. They can see the query they can see a vTiger CRM example and bringing up the customer record, local weather. It can even launch Salesforce. And there's Jesse's contact. So from a supervisor perspective, we'll go back to our agents. And I can see that I'm on a call. And I have the option to monitor, coach, barge in, pull the screen. We'll go to that. I can chat back and forth. So if while I'm on that call I decide that I really need to give that customer more information, I can even SMS with them. You can size the window however it looks best for your demo. So if they're doing a return in this example, we could give them an RMA number. So I'm actually SMSing back and forth with my cell number. It's hard, you won't be able to see it. And we have canned responses as well. So now I'm going to end the call and send it to a survey. And we'll mark it complete. Now on the non-final dispositions, this is where you would set your callbacks. So in this case, let's just say it was the wrong number. Not a great example, but you'll be able to see that you can go ahead and put when to call them back, the times to call them back from, their particular time zone, and the number you'll be calling them back to. You can flag the call. We'll just mark that as complete. Okay, so now that I'm done with that outbound call, I thought we should go over some of the telephony functions and talk about manual calls and internal chats. So by finding my supervisor, I can chat back and forth with her. I can go back to yesterday's messages, the past 7 days, 30 days, even all the messages I've had with my supervisor. I have the ability to place an outbound call. And do make sure you put a 1 because that's how we have the numbering plan set up. Down here, if I do nothing, it's going to have the default service. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my outbound main, and that way the caller ID will be the appropriate one. And again, I do have the option to send them an SMS. Now there is a limitation on the SMS. You cannot do outbound SMS campaigns. It's going to be one at a time. And remember, you always have your predefined. If you have the need to create a folder or maybe a new article, this is where you can add them. Now let's talk about screen pop options in our Monument Outdoors demo. Currently in the Monument Outdoor demo, you have 4 options. The first is the multi-tab one, which you saw in the outbound example that we're going to do in this one. You're going to also need to enter your extension. So I get my screen pop, and then I can go through the various tabs. Again, I can end my call and demonstrate how I can also SMS back and forth. Choose a canned message. Now we're going to try the next example. This concludes our training and demonstration video. Good luck on the quiz, which is our Monument Outdoors registration. And in this example, our customer is unaware they registered for a course, so we're going to go ahead and escalate to our supervisor, where we can again demonstrate chats back and forth. We can go back in history. We can have the supervisor go ahead and jump in. Pull the screen. And provide appropriate coaching. Then we grade it. Now let's look at the mobile API demonstration. And this is our mobile application. And we're going to inquire about that broken pole. I'm going to go ahead and insert a picture now. My agent's going to get the screen pop as well as a picture. Use the can statement again. You're going to want to talk about being able to see the location of the customer. And how that really enables first contact resolution. We'll complete the interaction. And then the customer sent a post-interaction survey. We're going to have the supervisor go ahead and listen to a recording. And this recording is of the chat, and she's going to grade it and give them some really good feedback.